3 countries, 2 capital cities under simultaneous threat, 30 fires burning at once in a single French department, an entire Spanish town of 3,400 people evacuated, 400 tourists rescued from a burning Italian coastline by sea because there was no road left to drive out on. And authorities this morning warning that the fires consuming southwestern France, the Madrid region of Spain, and Apulia in southeastern Italy may not be fully extinguished for months. This is July 27th, 2026. This is what Europe's wildfire crisis looks like right now. More than 300,000 people have now been displaced by climate change-driven wildfires in France and Spain after new evacuation orders were issued on Saturday night. 300,000 people. For context, that is approximately the population of the city of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Displaced in a matter of days, not by a single catastrophic event, but by a cascading sequence of fires that have been spreading simultaneously across multiple fronts in multiple countries, fueled by the same conditions. Record heat, extreme drought, low humidity, and strong winds that the European heatwave of July 2026 has been building toward for weeks. French President Emmanuel Macron praised the country's unity, thanking firefighters and foreign partners on Saturday as France battled unprecedented wildfires that have forced mass evacuations in the southwest. In these hours where the flames are testing our country, France has shown what it is, a united people standing shoulder to shoulder, Macron said. The president thanked security forces and emergency responders fighting the blazes which have spread through Gironde toward the suburbs of Bordeaux, fueled by record-breaking heat waves and dry conditions. Macron said France has mobilized all available civilian and military resources, including civil security aircraft, Canadair water bombers, dash planes, and water-carrying helicopters. He also thanked Romania, Croatia, Germany, Portugal, Sweden, Switzerland, the Czech Republic, and Slovakia for providing assistance. Our thoughts go out to Spain, Italy, Greece, and all people who are also facing these fires, Macron said. Macron, thanking 8 European nations for sending crews, mobilizing all available civilian and military resources simultaneously, speaking in the language of national emergency, not regional difficulty, not weather inconvenience, but a testing of the country. When a French president speaks in those terms, he is describing something that has moved beyond the scale of normal emergency management into the category of national crisis. And the specific geography he is describing, fires spreading through Gironde toward the suburbs of Bordeaux, tells you exactly how serious this has become. Bordeaux is not a remote rural location. It is France's 3rd largest city by some measures of metropolitan area, a UNESCO World Heritage City site, a wine capital of global significance with a metropolitan population of approximately 900,000 people. The wildfires of the Gironde department are not threatening farmland at the edge of civilization. They are burning toward the suburbs of one of France's most historic urban centers. French authorities ordered new evacuations of towns in the department of Gironde late Saturday night. An alert sent out to French phones ordered residents in at least 5 towns to evacuate toward Bordeaux, where thousands are sheltering as the wildfires rage. Hundreds of thousands of people have been displaced in Gironde and its neighboring department lands. Earlier Saturday, authorities said that roughly 30 fires were burning simultaneously in southwestern France, with thousands of personnel deployed to fight them. 30 fires, simultaneously, in a single geographic region, not spread across France, in the southwestern departments of Gironde and Landes, a corridor of Atlantic coast pine forest and agricultural land that has experienced some of the most severe drought conditions in France since instrumental records began. The emergency alert, sent directly to French phones, the FR alert system that France uses for imminent life-threatening situations, ordering residents of 5 towns to immediately evacuate toward Bordeaux, is the same class of alert system used for floods and chemical spills. It means leave now, do not wait to pack. Do not wait to see what happens. Go. The specific challenge of fighting 30 simultaneous fires in the same region is not just logistical, it is strategic. Firefighting resources are finite. Every Canadair water bomber tasked to one fire is not available to another. Every ground crew deployed to available to do so elsewhere. When fires burr in simultaneously at that density, commanders have to make the kind of decisions that emergency managers describe as triage, not trying to save everything, because saving everything is not possible, but prioritizing the fires closest to populated areas and the ones with the most dangerous forward rate of spread, given current wind conditions. The wind conditions in the Gironde on Saturday were the critical operational variable. Wildfires in pine and scrubland, spread at rates determined primarily by wind speed and direction. The same fire that advances at 100 meters per hour in calm conditions can advance at a kilometer per hour in a 30-mile-per-hour wind, an order of magnitude change in the pace of destruction that transforms a manageable containment operation into an emergency evacuation. The Gironde fires have been spreading fast. enough to trigger overnight emergency phone alerts to 5 towns simultaneously, which means the wind-driven rate of spread has been at the aggressive end of what firefighters have to manage. Now Spain, and the specific image that captures the Madrid region's crisis in a way that statistics cannot. On the edge of Navas del Rey, a Spanish town of 3,400 people in the Madrid region, a thick column of smoke rises into the sky. It is the trail left by the wildfire that has been burning through mountainous areas in the community of Madrid since Thursday, already leaving thousands of hectares scorched. The town itself is deserted after fires swept through on Friday, forcing authorities to evacuate the entire population until further notice. The damage is visible along several stretches of the town's entrance, where charred shrubs line the roadside and the ground has turned black. The key focus for Spanish firefighters has been keeping 2 wildfires west of the capital from merging, according to local media. The Spanish government has deployed 2,637 personnel, 426 ground vehicles, and 21 aircraft. They have been joined by crews from Greece, Italy, and Portugal, keeping 2 fires from merging. That phrase describes the most dangerous scenario in multiple fire management, when 2 separate fire fronts advance toward each other and the space between them narrows. The potential for those fires to combine into a single, much larger, much faster-moving fire with its own internal wind dynamics increases dramatically. A fire merger, sometimes called a fire whirl or a fire cyclone when the dynamics are particularly violent, can produce conditions at the combined fire's leading edge that are qualitatively different from either fire individually. The air is drawn into the combined convective column with greater force, wind speeds at the perimeter increase, and the forward rate of spread can jump suddenly and unpredictably. Spanish firefighters have 2,737 personnel and 21 aircraft specifically focused on preventing that scenario from occurring west of Madrid. The situation is being managed. It is being managed at the absolute limit of the resources Spain has available. Italy's contribution to this week's catastrophe is a photograph. A specific, extraordinary photograph that the Italian Coast Guard posted on Facebook on Sunday, showing more than 400 tourists and swimmers standing on a rocky shoreline at Cala. Manacor, a seaside location in Apulia on Italy's southeastern coast, while smoke fills the air above them. There is no road behind them in the photograph. The land route from the beach has been cut off by fire. The only way out is by sea. The Italian Coast Guard said Sunday that it rescued over 400 tourists and swimmers from a fire in Apulia, on Italy's southeast coast. The fire at Cala Manacor, the seaside location within the municipality of Peschici, left no escape route except by sea, the Coast Guard said. Several private vessels deployed to help in evacuating people. 400 people. Rocky coastline. Fire on the land behind them. Boats arriving from the water in front. This is the scenario that emergency managers call a dead-end evacuation, a situation where the standard surface escape route has been severed by the hazard itself, leaving a water route as the only viable option. The fact that it resolved without casualties, 400 people evacuated, no deaths reported from this specific incident, reflects the speed of the Coast Guard's response and the availability of private vessels in an area that is a popular summer tourist destination. Had the fire moved faster, or had the response been slower, the outcome would have been different, dramatically different. Apulia in Italian, is the heel of Italy's boot, a region of olive groves, limestone coastline, and Adriatic summer tourism that has experienced some of the most severe drought conditions in the Mediterranean over the past 2 summers. Its agricultural landscape, ancient olive trees with root systems extending meters into rocky soil, provides fuel for wildfire in a way that the region's humid winters historically counterbalanced. In the current drought environment, that balance has shifted. The olive groves that are economic and cultural heritage are also becoming fuel. The climate engine behind all 3 of these national wildfire crises is the same one that has defined Europe's summer of 2026 since May. This channel covered the first UK red extreme heat warning in late June when temperatures in England reached 37.7 degrees Celsius and set a new June record. It covered the 3rd UK heat wave in July when 30-degree temperatures spread to northern England. It covered the European heat dome described in the July 19th video, where temperatures in Spain, Portugal, and southern France pushed past 46 degrees Celsius, 115 degrees Fahrenheit, with an upper-level ridge locked in place over the continent and the Atlantic, providing no cooling relief. Prince William said the wildfires hitting Spain, France, and the United Kingdom were a stark reminder of the challenges posed by an increasingly extreme climate. An increasingly extreme climate. The Prince of Wales, in official public remarks, naming directly what the scientific evidence behind May, that the frequency and severity of the heat events driving these wildfires is not random year-to-year variation. It is a directional trend. The European heat events of 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, and 2026 are not independent outliers that happen to keep occurring. They are the expression of a warming baseline against which every summer's anomalies are now measured. A baseline that keeps shifting upward, so that what was a record-breaking extreme in 2003 is now a typical July. And what is a typical July now was unimaginable as a summer forecast 30 years ago. The specific fire danger conditions that connect the heat to the destruction are a chain of physical cause and effect that fire scientists have been documenting with increasing precision. The heat wave desiccates vegetation, drawing moisture out of leaves and needles and ground cover until the fuel moisture content drops below the threshold at which wildfire can sustain itself. In normal European summer conditions, Mediterranean scrubland and Gironde pine forest retain enough moisture to limit fire propagation rates. In the 46-degree temperatures, with single-digit relative humidity that southwestern France and the Madrid region have been experiencing, fuel moisture drops to the levels associated with catastrophic fire conditions. The conditions that produce exactly the multi-front, simultaneous ignition, rapid spread scenarios that firefighting agencies are facing right now. The drought dimension compounds the heat dimension. Soil moisture in southwestern France and the Madrid region has been running at extreme drought levels for months, not just since the July heat wave, but since the abnormally dry spring that preceded it. European soil moisture anomaly maps from Copernicus show large areas of Iberia and southwestern France in the most severe drought categories as early as April 2026. When soil moisture is at those levels at the start of summer, the groundwater that would normally provide some buffering against surface drying is absent. The vegetation is already stressed before the first heat wave arrives. When the heat wave does arrive, the drying is faster and more complete than in a wetter background year. The wind provides the third element. The Mediterranean and Atlantic coasts of southwestern Europe experience a range of wind patterns. The Mistral in France's Rhone Valley, the Tramontane across southwestern France and northeastern Spain, the Poniente and Levante in Andalusia, that are part of the region's normal summer circulation. What these winds do to an active wildfire is transform it. A fire burning at 10 centimeters per second into still air becomes a fire burning at 10 meters per second into a 30 kilometer per hour wind. That 2 orders of magnitude change in rate of spread is the difference between a firefighting problem and a wildfire emergency. The combination of extreme fuel dryness from drought and heat, combined with the wind patterns that are normal for southwestern Europe in July, is what produces the 30 simultaneous fires in Gironde. Each ignition that would normally be containable becomes a fire that reaches the wind-driven critical spread rate before it can be controlled. The mutual aid response, 8 European nations sending crews to France, Greece, Italy, and Portugal sending crews to Spain, reflects the formal structure of the European Civil Protection Mechanism, which allows EU member states to request and receive assistance from other member states during major disasters. It also reflects the practical reality that no single European country maintains the firefighting resources necessary to handle a multi-front wildfire disaster of this scale on its own. The Canadair water bombers, the Canadian-built aerial firefighting aircraft that are the most effective tool for rapid attack on wildfire fronts accessible from the air, exist in limited numbers across Europe. Their deployment in France, Spain, Italy, and Greece simultaneously strains the available fleet. This is why Portugal, which has its own severe wildfire problems every summer, is still sending crews to Spain, because the European mutual aid system exists precisely for moments when the scale of simultaneous crises exceeds what individual national systems can address. The warning that should settle most heavily with every community in southern Europe, still in the days ahead, is the one that CNN's live coverage published this morning from authorities working the French and Spanish fires. European wildfires may not be out for months, authorities warn, as flames rage near Bordeaux and Madrid. Months, not days, not weeks, months. The combination of extreme drought conditions, the volume of accumulated fuel from multiple years of elevated tree mortality driven by drought stress and bark beetle outbreaks, and the forecast of continued warm and dry conditions through August in southwestern Europe means that even if the immediate crisis, the 30 simultaneous fires in Gironde, the Madrid region fires threatening to merge, is brought to containment, the underlying conditions that ignited these fires will persist. Every hot afternoon, every period of low humidity and easterly wind is a potential ignition event on unburned fuel adjacent to already burned terrain. Wildfire managers work in a world of temporary containment, not permanent extinguishment. Until the autumn rains arrive, historically in September and October in southwestern France and central Spain, the fuel remains dry and the risk remains elevated. The satellite imagery of France's Gironde department captured this week shows the scale of what is already burned. Before, and After comparisons from the Copernicus Emergency Management Service show areas that were dense pine forest in early July, now displaying the gray-white signature of burned ground on satellite analysis, these are not fires that left the landscape lightly singed. The Gironde fires of July 2026 are following the pattern of the same region's 2022 fires, the largest fires in southwestern France in modern recorded history, which burned more than 26,000 hectares and destroyed thousands of homes and structures. The specific wines referenced in CNN's coverage, the 2026 vintage of these wines is safe, represent a layer of economic and cultural significance specific to this region that adds another dimension to the disaster picture. The Bordeaux wine region, whose appellations, Medoc, Pomerol, Saint-Emilion, Graves, Sauternes, are among the most valuable agricultural designations on Earth, sits directly adjacent to the Gironde forests that are burning. The vineyards themselves are relatively fire-resistant. Vine rows provide natural fire breaks, and the soil between vines holds less combustible material than pine forest. But the infrastructure of wine production, the chateau, the storage facilities, the equipment, is vulnerable, and the smoke from forest fires at this proximity and intensity can affect the chemistry of grapes still on the vine, potentially producing what sommeliers call smoke taint in the eventual wine. The human dimension, the displacement of 300,000 people across France and Spain, the E400 evacuated by sea in Italy, the deserted streets of Navas del Rey, sits at a scale that requires the kind of logistical response that governments are not normally called upon to organize. Bordeaux's sheltering capacity for thousands of evacuees from the surrounding departments is being tested. The Spanish evacuation facilities, taking in the residents of Navas del Rey and other evacuated Madrid region municipalities, are operating under the same heat conditions that produced the fires. In a heat emergency combined with a displacement emergency, the threat does not end with the evacuation. It continues in the shelters, where elderly evacuees and those with medical conditions face the same extreme heat that was already a public health emergency across France and Spain before the fires began. The question of what comes next involves 3 different timescales, all of which matter for different communities. In the immediate term, the next 24 to 72 hours, the critical variables are wind speed and direction in the Gironde and in the Madrid region, a shift in wind direction that pushes the Gironde fires away from Bordeaux's suburban fringe buys the firefighting operation time to establish containment lines on the flanks. A sustained wind that continues driving the fires toward populated areas removes that margin. In Spain, the specific outcome of the effort to prevent the 2 Madrid region fires from merging will be determined by fire behavior in the next 24 hours. In Italy, the immediate Apulia situation has stabilized with the sea evacuation, but the fire that prompted it has not been reported as contained. In the medium term, August, the combination of continued heat, drought, and the accumulated dried fuel in areas adjacent to already burned terrain means the fire danger across southwestern Europe will remain at extreme levels through most of the E-month. The European Drought Observatory's most recent soil moisture assessment shows conditions that historical comparison places among the most severe on record for this calendar date across Iberia and southwestern France. That baseline does not change quickly. In the longer term, and this is the dimension that Prince William's stark reminder language is pointing toward, this week's wildfires are the current expression of a trajectory that European climate scientists have been projecting for years. The Mediterranean basin has been identified in virtually every major climate assessment as one of the regions most exposed to accelerating warming and drying. The combination of rising temperatures and declining summer precipitation produces exactly the conditions: longer fire seasons, more severe fire weather, more fuel. Accumulated from drought-stressed and dying vegetation that Europe is experiencing in July 2026. Each year's fires are a preview of what comes next. This morning, the fires near Bordeaux are still burning. The fires west of Madrid are still being monitored for possible merger. The Italian Coast Guard is tracking additional fire risk along the Apulia coast. Macron's Canadairs are still flying. Spain's 2,737 firefighters are still on the ground. And more than 300,000 people across France and Spain are sleeping somewhere other than their homes, waiting to find out whether there will be a home to return to. Subscribe right now and turn on the notification bell. CNN's live coverage updates every hour. Copernicus satellite imagery is updating daily. And when the containment lines hold or break, this channel will cover it before it reaches anywhere else.